Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon. You are joining me, Sheikh Mohamad Saifuddin and Sheikh Mohamad Saleh from the Center for Science and Environment Studies, Institute of Islamic Understanding Malaysia, IKIM. And in this week's edition of Man and Nature, produced by Hajjah Mazlina Ismail, we will be touching on an important topic that can be equally controversial to some people, that is ethics of animal research. And to discuss this topic, I'm very fortunate to have with us online today our special guest, Dr. Haryanti Azura binti Mohamad Wali, who is veterinary officer, Animal Experimental Unit, Faculty of Medicine, University of Malaya. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Haryanti Azura.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Dr. Shaikh.
Thank you for joining me in this program and welcome to the program. I hope, inshallah, our discussion will be very beneficial to our listeners. Inshallah. So let's begin, Dr. Azura. Perhaps I think one of the most pertinent question regarding animal research is with regards to concerns about the research being done on animals. As an introduction, perhaps you would like to enlighten our listeners as to why are there concerns regarding animal research.
Thank you, Dr. Shaikh. Okay, so as introduction, I would like to highlight that it is very important for us to have animal research as part of our effort in order to making biomedical science fruitful and can be beneficial to not only to humans but also to animals actually. Okay, so of course when we are talking about animal research, there will be concern coming from various aspects. Okay, so concerns about animal research has been ongoing, but fortunately in Malaysia we are I would say still bearable. Yeah. So about the concerns on animal research. So surveys there's surveys of public attitudes to animal research show people are concerned about animal research and want to know more about what it involves. Okay, so there is a report by MORI in the UK. Around 1 in 4 people in the UK think animal research should be banned altogether, okay, which two-thirds believe animal research is acceptable, provided the animals don't suffer unnecessarily. Okay, so the research is for medical purposes, and there is no alternative. Okay? And some says that they're interested in knowing what scientists do to replace, reduce, and refine the use of animals. And some say that it should be done. It should be done to find alternative to animal research. So the concern about welfare of the animals, okay, whether it is doable, whether it will be done ethically in animal research. So that's the most concern that we're talking about.
Right. I think the key word here is that the research is being done ethically. Now, one of the things that you mentioned in your answer to the first question is that when animal research is conducted, one of the beneficiaries are actually to humans or to us. So perhaps you would like to enlighten our listeners as to how research results derived from animal testing can be extrapolated to humans.
So research, especially in biomedical science, it has various type of field. Yeah, some on oncology, some in physiology, pharmacology. So this animal research is very important to be extrapolated to humans. It is for our benefits in future. Okay, so there are striking similarities between the physiological systems of humans and various species of animals. Okay, for example, much of what we know about the immune system has come from studies with mice, and much of what we know about the cardiovascular system has come from studies with dogs. Okay, so research results from animals also provide information is necessary to design human trials. Okay, For example, if we want to market our product, so it has to go for legal approval, especially for new devices, medical devices, drugs, and also procedures. Okay, so it is important to be able to gauge how a new drug or procedure will affect a whole biological system before using it on humans. Okay, so it is critical for scientific as well as ethical reasons. So it has to be balanced between the scientific purpose as well as the welfare of the animals. It has to go together. So animal welfare is the key for good science, actually.
Thank you for the response, Dr. Azura. Now, you yourself is a very veterinary officer. And why do veterinarians who are supposed to care for sick animals sometimes do experiments on them?
Okay, so um, when I was a student in UPM, University Putra Malaysia, so we were taught how to treat the animals, how to take care of the animals, starting from the assessment, the physical examination, how do we do diagnostic, how do we do the prognosis, and then the treatment. Okay, so that has been the back of my mind when throughout the years. Um, so fortunately, when I was attending the interview with University Malaya, that was the question asked to me by the one of the panelists. Okay, so the question asked to me whether is it okay for me to be involved in lab animal research. So so at first, my concern is more to the condition of the animals, the body condition, the physical, the behavior throughout, whether or not animals will be used in research or, I mean, not in research. The condition of the animals, the welfare is most important. Okay, so when I entered the research area, research field, um, yeah, I have to make a balance. Okay, so we know the end will be something beneficial will be coming throughout the journey of doing experimentation using animals in animal research. But somehow along the way, I'm responsible for taking care of the condition of the animals. How about the husbandry? So how about the process that these animals will undergo? Okay, so for example, we have um, surgical procedures. Yes, surgical procedures in research. So the starting from the pre-operatively, so I have to take care what's the condition where the animals is fit to undergo the procedure, the surgical procedure, and then of course choices of anesthesia that is suitable for the animals, and then during the procedure I have to take care of um, the anesthesia stage for the surgeon to be able to perform the procedure. Okay? That's an example. Now, of course, after the surgical procedure, the responsibility is to make sure the post-operative care is provided. Okay, so we don't want, because we know that um, whenever there's any incision, any manipulation to the animals, it must be done ethically. We try to refine the whatever techniques that can induce pain to the animals by using anesthetic drugs, analgesic drugs. We don't want them to feel the pain, so we try to minimize um, the pain that they will endure. So it is not only um, the beginning, it is talking about the middle procedure, and of course after that. So for me, in this lab animal research area, environmental science, um, it is my responsibility, huge responsibility, to make sure that animals under my care um, will be taken care of very well, Okay, we try to refine whatever we can. We try to minimize whatever they will feel. I mean, pain, the uncomfortable. We cannot do away with that because it is kind of things that will occur when we use animals in our research. But as best as we can, we minimize the pain and the suffering.
Right. Thank you, Doctor. Out of curiosity, this question just came to my mind. Perhaps our audience also would like to know what types of animals are being used in animal experimentation and research.
So in Malaysia, basically we normally use rodents. So rodents, it can be either mice or rats. Okay, so mice and rats um, normally used for immunological study, pharmacology study, many types of study actually. There are various types of study, and also non-communicable disease. Non-communicable disease are also part of it, orthopedic as well. Okay.
Right.
And then we also have rabbits. So in Malaysia, basically the smallest species that we use in our animal study and research in biomedical would be rodents like mice and rats, and also rabbits.
Right.
But some researchers, when they have done their research work, the R&D phase, they would like to make it further, proceed with perhaps to commercialize the product that they have. Okay, so for example, in biomedical, in medical device, so they will have to choose or use larger species, for example, um, sheep or goats. Okay, so it is a part of requirement by the legal. For example, like US FDA, if they would like to commercialize and register the product, so they have to choose two species to start with. So in research area, the R&D part, so they will choose much smaller species. Okay, this is according to the three R's principle. I'll be talking about three R's later on. And then the largest species that they will choose to meet the regulation that have been set by the regulatory body.
Now, you're based in University of Malaya, and I'm sure you have experience handling with animals. So, in universities like University of Malaya, and I'm sure in many other universities and also research institutions, we actually have animal ethics committees. Now, could you explain what role does animal ethics committee play in overseeing research involving animals?
So for in animal research, researchers, it is our privilege, okay, to use animals in our research. Actually, it is not our right, but it is a privilege. Okay, so in order for all researchers to be able to proceed with their animal work, they need to have the approval before they can proceed. So the approval would be coming from the Animal Ethics Committee. So in University Malaya, we have Animal Ethics Committee. There are two Animal Ethics Committees in University Malaya. One is based in Faculty of Medicine, and the other one is based in University Malaya. So the differences would be where we house the animals, where we keep the animals. If it is kept in Faculty of Medicine, then the approval will be coming from Faculty of Medicine's Animal Ethics Committee. The name is quite long actually, so it is actually Faculty of Medicine Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. So in short, it is called IACUC or ICOOC. So we have not only in UN, there are various places, various institutions, they have this committee. So this committee would vet all the procedures. So the responsibility of the committee is not only to give green light to researchers, um, they would also do facility inspection, and also they have to make sure whether the application that they have granted approval, is done accordingly. So they need to do the post-approval monitoring. So they have to make sure whether researchers are they doing as exactly as what they have stated in their application or not. Okay, um, so basically this IUCO or Animal Ethics Committee as it is called in UKM. So in some institutions, they are called IUCO. Some institutions, they are called AEC, Animal Ethics Committee. Okay. So basically, this Animal Ethics Committee um, comprises of a few category of members. Okay. So we have scientists, we have veterinarians. It can be one person, it can be more than one veterinarians in the committee. We also have non-scientist category, and we also have non-affiliated members. Okay, and the most important members that we have is the one representing society. So we call them our public members. So we don't want to be biased because we know that once we are talking about science, of course, all the scientists and the perhaps the okay vets perhaps um, they tend to agree to what the application would like to do. Okay, so we need somebody, we need somebody who neutralizes us. Okay, so this will be coming from the public members. So public members, it is not affiliated with the institution at all. So they are representing the society. So when they are on board, they will really vet through the application, yeah, because each application will have the study design. Study design will tells us um, what will be done to the animals from beginning to the end. Okay, if there are some procedures that they are not aware of or they have a little information about it, they will ask us further. So when they ask questions, the scientists and of course the veterinarians would um, so-called triggered. Okay, this is the time where we need to be aware. Okay, this is something that become a concern to the public members that we need to address. Okay, so to help us become too biased with the application, we need the voices, the opinions, the yeah, opinions from the public members. So ICO plays a very important role. The ICO or Animal Ethics Committee, they are playing very important role. This is also in tally with our requirement, with our local law. So we have Animal Welfare Act 2015. So um, one of the component under the law is um, animal under research, animal and for scientific purpose. Okay? So as part of the requirement by this law, there must be a committee developed, established to be responsible in ensuring that research that will be done to the animals will be done accordingly, will be done ethically. So this is our function. So not only to answer the requirement by the law, which is the Animal Welfare Act 2015, Malaysia law. Okay, so it is also part of um, each institution's responsibility, ensuring their animal care and use program uh, are in place and well managed.
Now, you mentioned about the Animal Welfare Act 2015. Are there any other local laws or guidelines or perhaps associations involved in ensuring animal welfare, especially with regards to animal use in research?
So for the time being, we only have this law, Dr. Shine. So
Yeah.
it is called Animal Welfare Act 2015. However, even though it was established in 2015, but the implementation still in phases. So there are 13 subcategory. code of practice, we call it code of practice. There are 13 altogether. So for animal under scientific purpose, still in phases. It is not fully implemented yet. And so it will take time. Not only for, okay, talking about the laws, we have the Animal Welfare Act 2015. We also have an association um, who is responsible um, in merging um, all the institutions animal care and use program. Okay, so this association would so-called not manage but kind of pull this few animal ethic committee, lab animal research people to be together, and we are always talking about the management of how we conduct the animal research in our institutions. And this association, I'm sorry, the association is called Laboratory Animal Science of Lab Animal Science of Association of Malaysia. Sorry, LASAM in short. Laboratory Animal Science Association of Malaysia, LASAM. Okay, so LASAM is the very good platform here for all the animal research scientists, animal research, even animal caretaker in each institutions to be gathered together to attend seminars, to attend conferences that LASAM would organize. So um, LASAM will play a role where it will um, it's like a synchronize, or if in case we have requests from some research members, animal research members, and we would like to have conference on animal ethic, the husbandry management. How do they do it in other institutions? Because each institutions they have their own animal care and use program. So for us to synchronize everything, LASA would help us to gather a session, a platform where all of us from different institutions can be together and learn from each other. And luckily, actually, we are not so our community is not so big actually. So I would say few universities and also few um, institutions. Okay, they have their own animal ethic committee, and they have their own people um, who is part of the LASAM association as committee members. Okay, so a part of that LASAM also um, come up with the code of practice, yeah, for care and use of animals for scientific purpose. So this is the book actually. I'm not sure whether it can be seen.
No, no,
I
it's not too clear. Huh?
Okay, but it is can be downloaded from the internet. Okay, so LASAM has established the code of practice, and this code of practice has been endorsed by the Animal Welfare Board under Animal Welfare Act, representing the community for animal research, environmental.
Dr. Azura, I remember you mentioning about three R's earlier on. If I'm not mistaken, three R's, the three R represents replacement, reduction, and also refinement. Perhaps you'd like to elaborate a bit on the three R approach in animal research?
So 3Rs is a principle that has been introduced sometimes in 1950s. Yeah? Um, so 3Rs is replacement, reduce, and refinement. So as best as we can, we need to think of ways how do we replace animals before we use them. So we have to consider to use other method, other alternatives. So can we do away with lab animals? Can we do our research using computerized system? So are we able to achieve our study objective if we use cell culture without involving lab animals? So these will be questions at the back of most of researchers' consideration. Yeah? So they need to think of that. So as best as we can, try to find alternative, not to use animal. Okay, as I said before, using lab animals, it is not our right, it is our privilege. Okay, but somehow, if let's say you cannot do away without using lab animals, still you need to use lab animals in your study. So you have to think of to reduce the number if possible. So that's the second R, which is the reduce. Reduce the number of animals. Okay, so for example, for your one a particular research requiring the use of perhaps 50 rats. So how do you justify the use of 50 rats or maybe 50 rabbits, 50 mice? So you have to justify how you derive the number. So it is not just a um, number that you can select. So you have to consider with the reduction of this animal, would, would it still serve or meet and answer your study objectives? So that would be the main concern of ICOOP or any animal ethic committee. So we don't want you to use too many animals unnecessarily without so it has to be balanced. Yeah. So, but of course, at the same time, we don't want you to use very less animals, and it wouldn't meet your purpose. So we don't want that. When that happens, that will um, that will making researchers requesting for more animals because they didn't meet their study objective in the first place. So they will keep on repeating. We also don't want that. So try to be balanced. Okay, so the number reduction it has to come with the how do you derive? You have to check statistically the sample effect. Okay, the sample size. It has to be justifiable. Okay, and the last one is refinement. So refinement, of course, we can do away with manipulation that can cause uncomfortable discomfort, stress to the animals. Okay, so by having refinement, we will have to think of how do we minimize all these yeah, things that they can endure, they can have. Yeah? So we don't want our animals to be in pain throughout the procedures. So we give analgesic drugs to reduce the pain. So that is one of example for the refinement, and also um, the training. Training can be one of part of refinement. So researchers, especially the beginners, when they don't have experience, when they are first timers involving in animal research, they must be trained first. So that is part of our refinement. So we have to teach them how to handle the animals appropriately. We don't want them to injure themselves. How do they do all the procedures? For example, injection of test item, injection of drugs, blood collection. So all this has to be taught to the our new users, our new animal research members. So that is part of training, also part of refinement. And also of course the involvement of ICOOP or Animal Ethics Committee. They also have the SOPs, they also have their own policies and also guidelines that they will review yearly. So they have to check back whether um, things need to be changed, things need to be um,
Updated.
updated. Yeah, so that would be part of the refinement.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Azura. We are coming to the end of our program. Perhaps very briefly, some conclusion from you with regards to our topic, ethics of animal research.
Okay, as a conclusion, I would say that um, animal research is very important for us, as it will give benefits, not only to human being, also to the animal. Okay. So for us, when we involve animals in our research, be it research or if animals not involved in research as well, we are responsible with their well-being. Okay, so well-being of the animals is very important. Um, so we have to make sure the management of the animals, the feeding, their um, their social, their behavior are all well managed. Okay, so husbandry is very important in making sure that um, animals are taken care well in research. At the same time, we cannot um, simply um, of course treat them badly. We don't want that. So we have to. It is our. We have to pay respects to these animals that have been involved in our journey in making sure the benefit of biomedical science is done.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Azura. I'm sure our discussion has been very beneficial to our listeners. And ladies and gentlemen, um, as Dr. Azura mentioned, working with animals as in research is actually a privilege for researchers. Uh, in Islam, we view animals as part and parcel of the natural world created by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and animals have their own role to play in the ecosystem, and they are also created for the benefit of mankind. One of the ways mankind derive benefit from animals are through the utilization of animals in an ethical manner in research. So it is the responsibility, I believe, of mankind as the Khalifa of Allah on the planet, that we ensure that all aspects are considered. Regarding animal experimentation, most definitely, ethics play an important role. Dr. Azura has explained on the 3R principles, and these must be adhered to in order to ensure that animals are not abused or misused in the name of research. So, thank you again to our guest, Dr. Haryanti Azura, who has enlightened us with some of the ethics, procedures, laws, and guidelines vis-a-vis animal experimentation. Allow me to thank Dr. Haryanti Azura again for sharing today. Hopefully, the discussion has been beneficial to everyone listening, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of today's edition of Man and Nature. Inshallah, we'll be back again next week with another topic for discussion. Until we meet again in Man and Nature, continue tuning in to Radio Ikim, Inspirasi Inforia Islami. Wassalamualaikum.